everyone, welcome back. It is episode 9 of Striking a Chord on TBK Radio, and I am Manda. Once again, I am joined by Rich, and today's special guest, my buddy Pat. Pat is in Nashville, and Pat's going to talk to us today about living in Music City and all the fun stories he's gotten to experience since living there. What's going on, Pat?
Hey, not much. Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks for joining us today. Or tonight.
Depends on whatever time you're listening. It's all good.
Pat and I have known each other for so long, I honestly can't remember when the first time we actually met was. Usually I like to give everyone a little bit of a history with my guests.
What's that?
I said usually I like to give everyone a little bit of a history, a little backstory with how I know my guests. But I feel like we've known each other for so long, I can't remember officially how we actually met.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think the first time we met was when we went to a Story of the Year concert, but we may have met before that.
That's true. I think that's true.
We may have known each other briefly before that.
Yeah. Pat and I went to see Story of the Year with another mutual friend at the Cubby Bear in Chicago. I don't know if they're still doing concerts there or not. But that was a fun night because Pat, for the longest time, was more so just into country and less into other kinds of music. So that was I want to say that was your first emo kind of concert.
Yeah, it might be my only one. Most of the concerts I've gone to are country because when I was into the rap and hip hop thing, it was kind of hidden from my parents, so you didn't really go to concerts. So I didn't start going to concerts till I was older, which then you go to country shows and all that. So yeah, but it was a cool show. I had never even heard of them before, and it's kind of really cool actually.
So this week we have more new music to go over, a couple concert tour announcements, not that many to be honest with you, and then like I said, for our feature segment, we are going to be talking with Pat about living in Nashville and just how it's become such a high demand city. People are flocking there and people just going there for destination bachelorette parties and just the different people that he's gotten to meet since he's been there. So that's going to be fun. And then, so let's go ahead and start with some new music alerts. So Friday, I want to say last Friday was May
10th. May 10th.
May 10th. Thank you. Sorry. My mind is getting away from me today. So Ronnie Atkins finally released his full-length album, Caught Up in the Country. And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised at how good of an album it is. It's really solid. Only the title track features the backbeat, so that was good. If anyone's been listening, they know how much I really despise the backbeat in most country songs.
By the way, which is a shirt coming soon to the store at Shop TBK, and I have designed it, and it is funny.
So Pat, I know you're a fan of Rodney Atkins. Did you get a chance to listen to the new album?
Not the whole one. I'm in a music dilemma currently because of all my devices going crazy and not updating and whatnot. So I actually subscribed to Spotify this week. So I'm definitely going to be catching up on that one for sure. I'm still hoping to maybe finally go to his fan club party this year. So, but yeah, I'm a big fan of his, and the new song he's got on that album is really cool. The one he wrote about his wife and his kid. I can't actually. Is it about his kid as well?
I'm not sure. So he's got a couple different slow songs on there. One of them is let me pull up the track listing really quick because I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lyric.
So My Life could be the one that you're talking about. He basically said I love my life because you're in it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So there's that one, and then he does a duet with Rose Falcon. He actually does 2 duets on this album with Rose Falcon. One of them is Figure Out You. The other one is Everybody's Got Something. I don't know who Rose Falcon is, I'll be quite honest, but she's got a really good voice. I enjoyed the duet that she is featured on here.
So, side note, that's his wife.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so I found that out because we met her one year, and I just thought she was like some artist, and was like, she's really good, we like her music, and then we find out that she's actually married to Rodney Atkins, and was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Wow, yeah, that's
crazy. I think
crazy.
her dad is in the music industry. I think that's how she got into it.
Interesting.
I think her dad is like a well-known artist or songwriter.
Huh. Now I'm going to have to do some more homework on her. I really did not know that. That's pretty cool, though. So the album's really good. His vocals are really strong. Great songwriting on this album. It's definitely what we should be hearing from him. There's a lot of emotion on this. He touches on a lot of different things, a lot of heartbreak and falling in love, being in love. And then, like I said, the 2 duets with Rose Falcon. And something else he does really well on this album is it's equal parts upbeat and slow, like the ballads. I don't think like one like overdoes the other. Standout tracks I thought were All My Friends Are Drunk, Everybody's Got Something, What Lonely Looks Like, Thank God for You. And then again, the ones with his wife, apparently, Figure Out You and Everybody's Got Something. So, but yeah, it's definitely a good album. Like I said, I recommend checking it out, especially if you like his previous stuff. I mean, he's got a great voice for country music. I don't understand why he threw the backbeat in the title track of the album, but other than that, like I said, super solid album.
Yeah, he's an interesting person considering he had like early success and then he just kind of dropped off. But he's really good, and so I don't really understand that whole situation.
Right. The first time I heard him ever was in a bar, and like just like the DJ happened to play the song, and I swear, like it's to me like at the part of the song, like when I started hearing it, he's got his voice really sounds like Tim McGraw at points.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a casual music fan, like you probably wouldn't know the difference. But I mean, like I said, like even for me, like there's times when like I have to like think about the song to remember like who it is because they have very similar voices.
Yeah, I like that he's always kind of stayed true to who he is. His music seems to always keep kind of his identity there. He doesn't really like change it up and do a 180 and kind of try to do something he's not. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think up until Caught Up in the Country, he's just been very consistent and hasn't really tried to chase like that new radio sound. So I always appreciate that.
I think that honestly is probably his problem. Is that he won't kind of conform to that radio format, but I think enough people also want to hear it. So
yeah, that's true. Speaking of dance beats, Ed Sheeran and Justin Bieber dropped a collaboration on us on Friday. It's called I Don't Care. It's not bad the more that you listen to it. Somebody played it for me quite a few times over the weekend.
Sorry about that.
So the two share the vocals back and forth. It's definitely, like I said, it's more of a dance tune, which if you're an Ed Sheeran fan, you either love his dance stuff or you prefer his slower stuff. Me, I prefer his slower stuff. But I guess it's just a matter of preference. Lyrically, it's really sweet. I'm pretty sure he wrote this about his fiance. I don't think they're married yet. But yeah, no, I like I said, I personally prefer his non-dance tunes. But the song's really not that bad. Like I said, you might have to listen to it a few times for it to grow on you. But otherwise, it's pretty good. And Kenton Bryant, who is a up-and-coming country singer-songwriter, he released another single on Friday called Way Back. This is pretty good. I really enjoyed this song, and the rest of his tracks that he's released previously are also pretty good. So if you like that more traditional country sound, but with a little bit of modern twist to it. I definitely recommend checking him out. So he did this song. I don't know if he wrote it with Jonathan Singleton and William Michael Morgan, or just William Michael Morgan, and then Jonathan Singleton like helped him record it in the studio or whatever. But he basically did the song with Jonathan Singleton, who I'm sure Pat knows. Anyone who follows country music knows Jonathan Singleton is a big time singer songwriter, especially in Nashville. He's got like how many number one hits now?
A lot.
Yeah, he definitely has his hands in a lot of stuff. Funny story. So, what's his name? Oh my God, Jaron Johnston from Cadillac 3. Him and a bunch of other guys were in, I want to say Punta Cana over the weekend when new music came out on Friday. And so Jaron Johnston posted a screenshot of his text message from Jonathan Singleton. And Jonathan Singleton was like, man, he's like, I had like 3 or 4, I released like 5 songs while you guys were hanging by the bar at the pool, you know? And so it was kind of cool like to see like the camaraderie between the two of them. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just laughing at the...
Oh, yeah. So it's just pretty cool to see the songwriters going back and forth on their social media. So Kenton Bryan is a Kentucky native. There's no gimmicks or anything like that with his music. Like, he's not pretending to be somebody he's not. He kind of reminds me, the song in particular reminds me a bit of how country used to sound. So again, if that's something that you're into, I definitely recommend this. This particular song is just about his relationship with whiskey. So if you're a whiskey drinker, you'll definitely like it.
Yes.
And then Delta Ray released another song. They were teasing this one a little bit more, I feel like, than their other ones that they've been releasing previously. And so this one is called Hitch a Ride. It's really, really dark. It's definitely relies a lot on the storytelling. And it kind of makes me feel like almost the way like you feel like when you first heard like Fancy or when the lights went out in Georgia, any kind of those songs, because it's just like I said, it's very dark. It's got that dark storytelling aspect to it. The vocals are really interesting on this particular track, and then it gets really deep at it's like an almost like 2.5 minute mark. So it's really a different kind of song than the last few songs that they've released with this new direction that they've been going in. But I liked it. I think if you're fans of this new stuff that they've been releasing, then you'll definitely like this one as well. Have you gotten a chance to hear any other new stuff, Pat?
No, actually, I was just going to say that I need to check that one out because I'm fans of all the songs that you mentioned with it. So I didn't know that that's kind of what their new stuff sounded like.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, before they released the first of the new songs, Scott Borchetta was sending messages on social media, just posting statuses about this new direction that they're going in and how he thinks fans will really like it. And at first I was slightly skeptical because the first single they released had a little bit of that backbeat in it, and I don't think they need it at all. Like, their voices are really strong, they have great melodies, great songwriting. They don't need the backbeat at all. But so every song after that, though, that was released didn't have the backbeat. So I'm on board. I'm on board with this new direction that they're doing. And then, so Matt Stell released another song off of his upcoming EP, which features his hit single right now, which is Prayed for You. I haven't heard it yet on mainstream radio, but it has been played all over satellite radio on Sirius XM The Highway. Prayed for You is a really, really sweet song. A lot of people are using that with wedding season coming up as their first dance song. But everyone, what's up?
I can't do it, man.
No.
It's a good song. Like, I agree with you, but it sucks because whoever that guy was before him that had the same title, like, ruined that song for me. So I forget who he is. Do you know his name? The guy. There was a song called "Pray for You" like probably 15 years ago in country music, and it was
Oh,
like
really?
opposite.
I
He's
don't
like
remember.
praying that like he just broke up with her, and he's like praying that
I talked
like
about this
something
song
falls
2
off a
weeks ago.
window on top. What's that?
Talked about this song on this show 2 weeks ago, and you said you never heard it, Manda.
Prayed for You I've heard before.
That's the
But
song.
the original but so what Pat's talking about is there was another song by a different guy.
Yeah, it's a different guy with the same title but different concept, like opposite concept. Like he just broke up with someone apparently, and like is praying that like bad luck comes upon her. Like
yeah, no,
that,
I definitely haven't heard that song before.
yeah, so like now when they say that song's coming on, like all I think about is the other song, even though this one's actually the clear cut better song and good. It's like I can't get the other one out of my head. I'm like, man.
The other song is by Jared and the Long Road to Love.
There we go.
Is that the one that you were talking about?
Yep. Evan and Jared from the band from like way back in the early 2000s. The other half. Yeah, it's Jared.
That was when we couldn't figure out the name of Jared's band.
Yep.
Probably the only song that they ever had on radio.
Oh, okay. I mean, I still haven't heard the song. But
you've
now
heard
I know,
the song.
Like,
I think you've heard the song. I think you just put it back in your mind. Like, I don't want to hear the song.
Yeah, it's like one of those you forgot about it till this song came out. I'm like, wait a minute. Because I was like, they're playing that song and then like something else they're playing. I was like, oh.
I don't know. The lyrics to the other song, Prayed for You, Rich read them on a few episodes back early in the podcast. And I just remember thinking, like, that is one twisted, messed up song.
Yeah, I mean, the melody is like, I think lighthearted and stuff enough that like you don't take it seriously, but like it's also pretty dark. I mean,
yeah, lyrically it was really, really dark.
Lyrically it's very dark, but he does it in a way that you don't take it seriously. But still, like now with this new song, that's all you think about. And you're like, ah.
Right. But so this new song, Everywhere But On, he's basically talking about being able to go everywhere but not move on. I think it has lots of potential. I'm really anxious to hear what the rest of the EP is going to sound like. I think, again, he's one of these new artists that's got that voice that he can really bring country back to where we want to see it. So I definitely recommend checking Matt Stell out if you haven't yet already. And then Parachute released a new album on Friday. And if you don't know who Parachute are, so they're a band. They're more like on that, I don't want to necessarily say emo because not emo in the sense of like back in like the 2005 emo bands, but they're more like pop rock emo, if that makes any kind of sense. So
yeah, I know what they are. I know it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to describe them to someone that doesn't know.
Exactly. They've got a great sound. I enjoyed their previous albums. But so this new one, there's too many effects on there, especially, I don't want to necessarily say backbeat, but there's just, I don't know, they're using a lot of different kind of effects, I feel like, and I would rather just prefer them just use their instruments and their vocals, because I think that's what they're really good at. They have great voices. So the last album was, I can't read my own writing. That's pretty sad. So I'm going to just disregard that part because I don't know what I was trying to put on there. Vocals don't shine as much on this album as they do on the previous albums. Again, I think it's just kind of covered up by too many of the effects that they're using. But yeah, I mean, listen to it, see what you guys think, but I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was nearly as good as their first two albums.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know who any of the guys in Parachute are. I just know of them and have heard their songs. But I think it's the lead singer. Mm-hmm. Like showed up randomly at a Matt Wirtz show that I went to one time and just like played an acoustic song. I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like that's kind of like now when I think Parachute, I'm like, oh yeah, you're pretty cool. That's that guy that like showed up and like he actually sounded really cool. Like just him and the guitar, like it was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a great voice. And also I figured out what my notes said. Their last album was in 2016.
Ooh.
So this is their first album in 3 years. Yeah. And then Hunter Hayes, his new song. I don't know when exactly he released this. I want to say it was at least a few weeks ago. But I finally actually just got around to listening to it. It's called Heartbreak. And this is supposed to be like his new sound that he's going with. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was bad. I don't want to say it's like fantastic or amazing or anything, but it's not bad. From the videos I've seen of his tour that he's on currently, he's doing pretty good. He's still selling out shows, so that's good. Even though he's kind of gone through a little bit of a change up. I know his last single, I want to say, which came out, it was either earlier this year or the end of last year, was called Dear God. That was definitely a different sound that we're never, like, we really just have not heard from him before. But luckily Heartbreak doesn't stick with that sound. This one's kind of, I want to say it's probably a good like branch off from what he was doing originally when he first blew up. So definitely give that a listen to.
Yeah, I had no idea he was doing music. Like, I just thought about him the other day. He came up on like my just playlist randomly, and I was like, I wonder if he's even doing music. Like, I think he just got married and quit. Like, I didn't even know he was like still around.
I didn't even know he got married.
I don't know if he did. I thought he did, but
I know he shaved his head.
I just know that like he kind of didn't release anything except that Dear God, which was weird. For a while, and I thought
lyrically it was cool.
Like dropped off, so I didn't know he had new music. I might have to go check that out.
Yeah, it's just one song right now, but I think he was definitely like going through something, and so that's why he kind of took a break for a while. And Dear God, lyrically, like it kind of reflects that, and it, like I said, lyrically, it's a great song, but the musicality is all weird.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like about it. It was just totally different.
So that's all I got for new music alerts. There was not a lot that came out this past Friday. So unless you guys, if there was a new song that I didn't touch on that you guys want to share with us.
Nope, I got nothing.
I think you got it.
All right. So next up, so before I get to artists to watch, because last week I forgot about my Manda's music picks of the week. So this week, still listening to the Rob Thomas Chip Suit Smile album. still on repeat, guys. Still on repeat. If you have not checked that out, Pat, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a Rob Thomas fan. I don't remember if you are or not.
I feel like I've listened to it just through you.
I feel like everyone probably feels that way. Colby Cooper, who we're also going to get into in my Artist to Watch segment. I was just introduced last week to Colby Cooper through my guest last week, which was Matt Malone. And so Colby Cooper released his EP, Good Ones Never Last, Part 1. So I think this is supposed to be like the first half of a full-length album. I'm not sure when Part 2 is coming, but after hearing this, I'm really excited to hear it. He's got such a fantastic sound. Yeah, so like I said, I'll get a little bit more into that once we go into the artists to watch for segment. But Colby Cooper, if you haven't checked him out yet, I highly recommend it. Other songs that are on my repeat right now are Alana Springsteen, Paige McKenzie, Parker McKay, Madison Kozak. All these girls I mentioned within the last couple weeks. And they have so much talent. I really, really can't wait to see what else comes next from them. So definitely check out the songs that they've released within these last couple weeks. And then Scott Stapp, his new song, Purpose for Pain. Again, a song I have on repeat. Great hard rock song. Some honest, raw emotion from him. And like I said, I think he's dealing with his shit the same way that Aaron Lewis is through his music, lyrically. And I mean, it's working. Like I said, it's just a great song. I've been listening to it all weekend. So those are my picks of the week. What have you been listening to lately, Pat?
Well, I've been trying to get my playlist back in order now that I have Spotify. I was actually looking for that new Luke Combs song that apparently got released like this week or something.
Yeah, last week.
Didn't they say something about like a 1, 2, 3 or 4, 3, 2, 1 more or something.
I don't know. I know the song he just released is called "Beer Never Broke My Heart."
Yeah, there's that one, which actually is pretty good. But then they were saying today on the radio that he apparently released another song or just a video of him singing a song.
Oh,
That was
really?
one that was like a throwback to 90s country, and I think it's called like 4, 3, 2, 1 more beer or something. It's
Interesting.
something like that. And I was trying to find that, but I can't find it anywhere. So
I'll have to check that out.
I've been wanting to listen to that one. But yeah, other than it's not terribly new or anything. Actually, it's kind of old when I found out it was from a CD from last year. But Eric Church's new radio song is actually pretty good.
That one is some of it.
Sometimes I think, or
Okay.
some of it. Yeah, some of it. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
That one I like right now, and then I've been kind of cycling through my '90s country lately. So
can't go wrong with '90s country.
What's that? Yeah, I know. And especially now with like the whole Spotify thing, and it just recommends another song that you like click. So yeah, I haven't listened to a lot of new stuff this week. But I'm hoping that's my next thing. The Rodney Atkins album's up next for me. And some of these ones you've just been talking about that I didn't even know about. And actually, the Scott Stapp one I've been interested in. I just haven't had a chance to listen to that yet.
I definitely recommend that. That was really a pleasant surprise when I saw that he really released a song. So actually, like I said, was saying last week, I heard it on the radio on Octane one morning last week when I was on my way to the train station, and I turned it up because I had to do a double take. I was like, Scott Stapp, I didn't know he was releasing new stuff, and sure enough, it's off of his upcoming album, which will be released in July. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was just intrigued that he's back.
And hopefully sober.
And interested to hear like what he's got, because I was like, that's pretty cool. Like he's really good, so it could be good.
Yeah, he's definitely got a great voice. So I think that's that. I mean, it's a little early to say, but that could be possibly one of the top albums of the year, depending on how the rest of it goes.
I will bet you a steak dinner that's not the case.
I mean,
I can see it in like the top 15 maybe at least.
Maybe the top 250.
It went from top 1 to top 15.
No, not top 1. I said one of the top albums.
Oh, well, one of the top. You kind of are thinking top 3 at that point. You would think.
We'll say, you know what? I'll give you guys top 10. I think it'll be one of the top 10 albums of the year.
I mean, do you want to take a bet? Because I'll wager it.
It's possible. I mean, I don't think Kenny's releasing anything this year, so it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the two songs that are off of the album so far that he's released are good. Like I said, Purpose for Pain especially. I think his sound is fantastic. I don't think that he, I have a feeling that he's off the booze, and I hope so. Because lyrically and vocally, he's really strong right now. So I have high hopes for this album. So moving on to artists to watch. So I'm going to bring up Colby Cooper again. So Matt told me about him last week, and I checked out his EP, 6-song EP, The Good Ones Never Last, Part 1. This EP came out on April 25th, so I'm a little late to the game, but I'm totally on board with this guy's sound. It's fresh, but it's still in a way that should satisfy both fans. So he's another artist who's from Texas, but he's got this really cool sound that's almost a little bit like Southern rock and classic rock meets traditional country. But just, I don't know, it's got a fresh twist to it. You really have to check it out. The songs that I thought were the best on there were Fall, Curse October, which is the one that Matt mentioned last week, and then Tired. Last Goodbye is really good. And yeah, I mean, just listen to all 6 songs. They're so fantastic. I can't wait to hear more from Colby Cooper. And then, so Catherine McGrath is a singer-songwriter. She's from Ireland. I want to say I don't know if she's one of the Songstoppers or not. I don't think so. But so she released her first full length album, Talk of This Town, last year. It's a great debut, fantastic songwriting. She's already, I'm pretty sure she's still like young, like maybe like in her early 20s, but she's already got such a strong voice, and she sounds like she really has a good grasp on who she is as an artist. So I can't wait to hear what else that we get from her. And she also released at the end of January a cover of a song called Grace. I'm not familiar with the original, but her cover is really good. And then it's just her and an acoustic guitar, so it's a really moving song. So definitely recommend Catherine McGrath if you have not yet heard of her. Yeah, so that's it for artists to watch for this week. I only gave you guys two. This past Tuesday, going back to new music, I forgot. Keith Urban dropped a new song, and it's called We Were. And people are saying that this is his return to his more classic sound, if you want to say. But I think when they say classic, they mean like his pop country songs as opposed to classic, where like Blacktop Road was more like his classic sound, if we're going chronologically, because that was his early stuff. But so We Were is a really good song. It's about missing who you were when you and a special someone were in us. It's very descriptive, his songwriting, which makes it effective in the storytelling. And he just really paints the picture really well. So this is the first new music we've gotten from Keith since Graffiti You. I know for some people, Graffiti You kind of rubbed him the wrong way because he did a lot of experimenting on that album.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah, there was some songs on there I liked.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as say I didn't like it.
Yeah, Parallel Lines was my favorite song on that album. I absolutely love that song. I think it's one of his best, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones on there. It's not one of my favorites, because again, I'd be in the group that likes Blacktop Road, or yeah, that one, the Blacktop song, kind of like the old school Keith.
Yeah.
But then, I really liked his album, I don't know what the name of it is. It's the one with the white cover.
Golden Road or something like that?
No.
Something About Gravity?
Yeah, Defying Gravity, I think.
Okay. I think that one had Kiss a Girl on there, right?
Yeah, that Kiss a Girl and Without You. I think it had the summer song. I forget the name of it. Not Long Hot Summer, but When Summer Comes Around.
Oh, okay.
So I think that might be my favorite album he's done.
Really? That's kind of surprising.
I don't know why. I really do like his first albums, but for some reason that's the one that comes to mind when I think about like favorite album of his.
Yeah, for me it was the Keith Urban era where it was like Somebody Like You and Better Half.
Better Half is like one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I love like that era of Keith Urban. I would love to see him get back to that sound.
Oh yeah, me too.
So music news, sticking with Keith Urban, he released a video of him and Foy Vance, which is the original singer-songwriter of the song Burden, which Keith did a cover of. He released a cover of his own version of it, and he performed it at the, I want to say the ACMs. So this week he released a video of him and Foy Vance in the studio playing Burden, and it's a shot in black and white. It's Keith on the acoustic guitar, Foy Vance is on the piano. They're both doing vocals, and it's an absolutely like amazing, chilling video. I posted it on both, I think, the Striking a Chord Facebook page, and I don't remember if I posted it on the TBK Facebook page or not, but if you have not seen it yet, please go check it out. It's so good. I wasn't familiar with who Foy Vance was before Keith Urban covered Burden, but now after seeing this video, Foy Vance has such a great voice. So I definitely recommend checking that out. That's it for music news. And then on the road, any tour or festival announcements that you guys are excited about?
I have not seen anything this week.
No. Nothing new that I saw this week that I was excited about.
Yeah, most everything I happened to see as well was stuff that we already talked about within the last couple weeks. The only new thing that I found was The Who is touring in select cities this fall.
Come here the soundtrack of every CSI show ever.
And DuckTales, right?
And DuckTales. I don't know about that one.
Didn't they have the Who song?
I don't know.
No.
It's gonna really suck if that wasn't even their song.
And then Shinedown has extended their Attention tour. This time they're adding Papa Roach, Asking Alexandria, and Savage After Midnight. I'm really upset. I haven't gotten to see this tour yet, and I loved that album. It was one of the top albums I thought last year, Attention. So I would be curious to see this tour. They keep extending it, so I'm assuming it's just because of how successful it is. So if you're a Shinedown fan, which one of these future episodes is going to be us digging into their catalog? Because I really love them as a band.
Ooh.
And I think Brett Smith is a great voice. What's up?
I'm in on that.
I really like them. That'll actually be really good. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I love Brett Smith. I think Shinedown is one of those bands in the 2000s that really changed hard rock for the better. I think they kind of brought it back from the trenches, so to speak. And then, so that's it for on the road. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of new tour or festival announcements. Everything else we've already mentioned within the last couple weeks. So that brings us to our feature segment, so Pat's going to talk to us about living in Music City. So you moved to Nashville how long ago?
That's actually really easy. 11/29/2013. It's actually on the wall in this room, so that's cool. That's awesome. You asked that because I can actually give you the answer.
It always helps when my guests are able to answer the question.
So can't get in trouble for that question.
So what initially inspired you to move to Nashville to begin with?
Illinois politicians. It just got so crazy expensive to live in the Chicago area. So I kind of, when I came back from Carbondale, where I went to school and stuff, and was kind of staying down there because I didn't really want to go back to Chicago. I liked Chicago. I just knew financially it was going to be an issue. So I moved back in with my dad for a while, and to try to decide what I want to do, because I was like, if I get an apartment, I'm stuck forever. So that's kind of what happened. I was just living at home, and then when I met my wife and we started talking about that stuff, about long term, do we want to stay in Illinois or Chicago, or are we wanting to go somewhere else? Because I knew I did. So we kind of talked it out about where would be not crazy far. Her family's from Michigan, the Detroit area, so close proximity to Chicago. So we wanted to stay somewhere nearby that we could still drive, on weekend trips. But, I mean, if we were going to go somewhere, we kind of wanted to go somewhere with a big city that was cheaper and warmer. So Nashville pretty much fits all of the criteria. So that's kind of how we came about that one.
Okay. And then, so at the time, because I know since then, the cost of living in Nashville has gone up, but at that time, it was a lot cheaper, right?
Yeah, we got, when we first moved here, because we kind of moved here 6 months faster than we wanted to, just because job offers came really quick, which is part of the issue nowadays still. But so because we had to move so quickly, we didn't really look at a lot of apartments, but we had visited one weekend to kind of just look at places and stuff. And that's when the job offer came. So we were like, well, we didn't really want to move right now, but kind of can't pass it up. So in 2013, when we moved here, because we moved down, we actually drove down on Black Friday. We got a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with a balcony for $800 a month.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I was like, it really beat the studio apartment my wife was living in Berwyn, and obviously I was just staying at home. But yeah, you can't come near those prices even back then in the Chicago area. So we were like, yeah, we'll take it. Like, we thought they were crazy. So, and we were actually like right in a good suburb of Nashville where you're like a quick, less than 10 minutes from the downtown strip, which actually Broadway, which is where all the bars are, turns into the same road our apartment was on, like 10 minutes down the road. So like, it was actually super cool for new people to Nashville. You just get on the road and go.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have directions or anything. So, but it has gotten crazy. Those apartments are now close to $1,300 a month, I believe.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's crazy, and they've renovated because everything's going higher end. But yeah, we definitely moved outside the city a little bit to try to keep the cost down.
And so now, being in Nashville for quite a few years now, so now you, like you say, you live outside of downtown Nashville and you have a house, but it's still cheaper than Chicago. Yeah,
our mortgage is, I think, just shy of like $900 a month with everything. So it's still really good. We're about 30 minutes outside the city, but still not too bad. And there's absolutely nothing in our town. Except I found out Randy Travis's old home, apparently.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because now I look at it every day on my drive home because it's right across from the daycare where I pick up our son. So like it's like walking distance from the house, which is really cool. I'm curious to know how much they're renting it out for because it's
I'm kind of sad that we didn't know about it when I visited Nashville for the first time.
Yeah, me too, because it would have been cool to at least get pictures of the outside. And I think at that point, they probably hadn't done as many renovations yet, because now I guarantee you, like, that house looks not 1% like it did. Because now that I've been looking at it and paying attention, like, every single piece of it is, like, brand new. So I mean, other than the overall shape of the house, probably, like, I don't think much of it's original. And I don't know when he lived there. I'm guessing it was probably, like, in the 90s or something.
Yeah. So fun story. So in 2017, I went to Nashville for the first time, and part of how I was able to go there was thankfully the graciousness of Pat and his wife Jody, because I didn't have to pay for a hotel. Thankfully, we were able to stay with you guys, and that had to be probably my favorite trip so far. Going to Nashville for CMA Fest and just getting to experience everything that we got to experience was just amazing. Like, Music City, for anyone who's never been there before, is like Disneyland for adults, like for music fans. It's insane. Like, I absolutely loved it. Like, I fell in love with it the moment I got off the plane. I did not want to leave. That plane ride home was a very sad one.
Yeah, it's definitely sensory overload.
But in the best way.
Because I remember, like, it's so exhausting. I think I kept telling you about it. The first 2-3 years that we had gone.
Yeah.
To trying to get you to come down here. Just how exhausting it is to, like, you have the, FOMO, fear of missing out syndrome going on all week, where, like, you don't want to miss a single thing, and you feel like if you're not studying schedules and social media that you're going to miss something really good. And so it definitely drains you over the week. Now it's gotten to the point where we kind of are like, we pick and choose what we're going to go see or who we're going to see. But for those first, like, 3-4 years, we were, like, all in it. Like, as much as we could go do, we tried to do it all.
Yeah. And I feel like even, like, when I went there, like, it was still, I mean, I remember, like, that first night we were sitting there, like, studying the schedule for the next day.
Exactly.
with interviews and everything, we were trying to coordinate like who's like what meet and greets we could go to in between like interviews and stuff. And like you're walking up and down Broadway, you're running all over the place, and it was hot and humid, but like I don't know, it was like you don't, because of the adrenaline and like because you're so excited to be in Nashville, like in Music City, you don't even like look, I hate the heat, guys. I am not a warm weather person, but when you're in Nashville, like you just, I don't know, you just suck it up, I guess, like because of everything else that's so amazing that's going on around you. Like you don't even really think about the heat.
Yeah, it's we had that happen. I don't know which year it was, but it had to be early on because I remember we had all the text alerts going, and we got the alert that Hunter Hayes was going to do a pop-up show on the top floor of one of the new bars that opened. And like it didn't say like how many, it just said like get here quick because once it fills, we're done, like it's filled. And so like we were across this pedestrian bridge, which Amanda knows about now.
Yes.
But it's quite a task in the middle of the heat. And so we had to, like, we had just crossed it, and then we get the text, and we're like, it's not even like you don't have time to think. You're just like, we're going. So you just turn around and like start sprinting over this bridge again. And we got up there and we got in. I think we were like one of the last 5 people in or something. And then they shut the doors, and it seemed like it took forever for Hunter Hayes to actually show up and start playing, but he played like a 45-minute set in a small little room with like maybe 200 people in there. And it was like completely dark except for glow sticks in the stage light. And I remember my wife actually got like heat exhaustion or something because we were out in the sun and like we had to like haul to get over there. And she ended up like going down and like sitting in a corner like before he actually showed up because like it was like just so hot in there. So yeah, you don't even think about it, and then all of a sudden it just hits you. But yeah, you don't have time to think about like, hey, I'm hot or thirsty. Like you just go.
And so CMA Fest, for anyone who's never been, it's like almost like a week long. Like, I mean, officially it's like 3 or 4 days, but there's stuff that goes on all week long. There's different singer-songwriter rounds, and there's all kinds of pop-up shows, which we're going to get into more in a little bit, because pop-up shows are just its own little like world in itself within Nashville. But yeah, so CMA Fest, with what Pat's talking about with going like running all over the place and just like split-second decisions. So when I went there, I remember us like setting our Twitter alerts for like different artists that we wanted to see, because that's the first place that they're gonna share something on is their social media. Like it'll be like a last minute thing. Like I remember Blake Shelton tweeting that he was gonna be at, I think it was like Wild Horse Saloon or something.
Yeah.
And we tried to get there like as quickly as possible, along with a whole bunch of other people like walking down Broadway. And I could see him from the outside, like I could hear him, but I wanted to be inside to see Blake Shelton because, of course, it's Blake Shelton at this like little, like, I mean, not little, it's a pretty decent sized place, but compared to the arenas that he plays and everything. But I mean, it's that kind of stuff that you get to like at a last minute kind of thing. And something else that was just incredible that we got to do. So Pat and Jody have been going to CMA Fest for years, and they learned some tips and insider tricks over those few years. And so one of them was how to meet some of the artists, the bigger artists that play at Bridgestone Arena. We're not going to tell you how because we don't need, everyone and their mother going to that place now.
Yeah, we'll get death threats from the people that were there.
But so we were lucky enough. And so we tried for a couple days during that. I think our first day we tried to meet Luke Bryan, and we met some interesting people who were also trying to see him. But it kind of interfered with some of the other stuff that we had planned. So on Sunday, it turned out that we didn't really have anything going on, any like meet and greets we were dying to do early in the day. So we were able to camp out at this particular spot in the hot sun, but it was worth it because we actually got to meet Keith Urban, of all people.
Yeah, that was definitely pretty cool.
We got to see the Batmobile that he drives.
Yeah, which I like look for on the interstate all the time now and never see it.
I just remember it being so funny, like him pulling it in the Batmobile and then coming out on the golf cart and saying like, I'll be back. And you don't actually think like that they're going to come back. Like you just think that that's something they're saying. just to, get to tease the fans or whatever. But then, sure enough, like, we're standing there waiting, and all of a sudden this golf cart pulls up with all these people in yellow shirts, because that's what security wears. And then one of those yellow shirts gets out, and it's Keith Urban, because he's wearing a Predator shirt and not a security shirt. And I mean, he literally, like, he took his time and went down the row of people and signed stuff, took pictures, talked to you. Like, it was incredible. Like, Keith freaking Urban. That's like a moment like I will never forget.
Yeah, he's definitely a really cool, just like kind of humble dude. Like, it didn't seem like he was like a famous person at all. Like,
right.
He was actually really cool.
And so that's just one of the many like really cool things that goes on in Nashville. Just not at CMA Fest, but like not just for CMA Fest, but anytime in Nashville. Like, I remember reading maybe like a year or so ago. He was in between albums and he wasn't on tour and he was bored, so he went and popped up at some like basement bar on a Tuesday night and started playing just for the hell of it. And so that's going into the pop-up shows and surprise shows. That kind of thing happens in Nashville all the time, apparently, and which to me is just incredible because you don't get that anywhere else.
Yeah, it's something you kind of get used to when you're here. Like, now it's like part of just life in Nashville. But yeah, at first it was always like so insane to think that these artists just like are constantly just having these pop-up shows. Because like one or two, like, it happens, but like to have them happening all throughout the year all the time is like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine like going into like, I don't know, some like hole in the wall like bar here in Chicago and, seeing an artist like of, Keith Urban's kind of like status. To me, that just like blows my mind that these artists do that. And then not only that, but like you could walk into like a Whole Foods and see Karen Fairchild of Little Big Town. Again, that's not something that happened here in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. I had something about the pop-up shows. And then I totally forgot. Oh, one of the ones recently that happened that I mean, I didn't expect it, obviously, because you never do. But Pink actually popped into Tootsie's after her show at Bridgestone Arena and played a little while there. And I was like, man, that would be really cool.
I heard about that. That's pretty insane. And it's really awesome that she did that.
Pink's one of my favorite artists. And so I was like, I never really wanted to go to the show because I was like, we can't go to the show. It's expensive, whatever. Yeah. But it was like, then when that happened, I'm like, but I could have been at that bar. Like,
that was just like our last
at that bar at midnight when she showed up. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that was just like our last day of at CMA Fest when I went in 2017, and Luke Bryan was playing on top of Tootsie's bar because it was the Predators game. They were in
that's right. That was crazy.
The Stanley Cup
finals, and it got even worse down here. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about it.
Yeah, of all the years I picked to go, it's the year that they're in the playoffs.
You had all the hockey fans mixed in.
But it was awesome. Like, I would not trade that experience for anything. And then so something else that's really cool in Nashville that they do is the artists, when they're shooting music videos in town, they tweet it out to their fans on Twitter, and they let fans show up to be in the music video.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen a couple of those happen. And never been in a music video, but it happens like all the time. They're like, hey, if you're in the Nashville area, like, we're gonna be here like in 10 minutes. It's kind of cool. It's kind of crazy that they can rely on people to actually show up on short notice like that.
Yeah. Didn't you come close to being in a Jake Owen music video?
Yeah, I was in I guess it would be the CMA, the award show that happens right around CMA Fest. I think it's the CMA show. I didn't know what it really was for at the time. He just tweeted out like, hey, I'm going to be doing, I don't know if he said a free show, but he said he'd be doing like a performance or something at this, like, I don't know if it's a bar normally or something. It's just like this building downtown, and said he'd be there at like 2:00 in the afternoon or something, and the first so many people are going to be able to get in. And it turns out apparently he wasn't supposed to tweet that out. So we
Oops.
found that out later. I don't know if he tweeted out like shortly after that he got in trouble for that, or like if it came out in the news or whatever. But apparently CMT had already planned on filling the place with like extras anyway, so like he didn't need that out. But because we showed up there, they had to accommodate it all of a sudden. So they started like cherry picking like the girls they wanted like in the bar, like up close, and then like they started just letting people in at that point. And so I got in, and it ended up being a taped performance for, I think it was Beechin, and it was his performance during the award show TV show, but it was filmed like a few days ahead, because like, so when they do those cutaways during the award show where they're saying like we're gonna cut into Tootsie's where Jason Aldean is like playing, it's actually happened at least earlier, if not like days earlier. And,
oh wow.
So yeah, that's one thing I found out by going to this, or I would have never known that that's what they do. So they'll do it like either earlier in that day or like that weekend. They just say like, go here, we're gonna tape. They have all the film crew and everything, and then they do the song. Because I remember them saying a disclaimer like, if you don't like the song Beechin', probably don't come because we're gonna play it like several times. And they did. They played the song like 5 different times to get all their angles and all that. And he kind of mingled with the crowd in between takes and kind of like told jokes and stuff to keep it interesting in between takes. But yeah, it was really cool. I was just a Jake Owen fan, so it was cool just to go. And then afterwards, he hung out like on the street with people and like signed autographs.
That's awesome.
And that is actually where I guess it's the only time that I saw, I guess now known as Raymundo, from the Bobby Bones show. He was actually sitting at the bar on one of the stools when I came in, because I recognized him. I'm like, that's it. I think he was just producer Ray at the time. I'm like, I think Ray from the Bobby. I took a picture and was like, I think I just saw that guy, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know. So
one of the many reasons I need to move to Nashville.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty cool. I've never seen Bobby Bones just out and about. I will say that.
That's because he doesn't go out.
That, and we're not in that area. Like when he used to walk his dog and go to the restaurants he talks about, we're like 30 minutes from that whole area. So
something else that is really interesting that I envy Pat for living in Nashville is, so Pat works for a. Did we decide? Can we say the name of the store?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything against saying where I work.
So Pat works for Home Depot, which, I mean, it's a franchise, it's a chain store, so I'm sure everyone knows what a Home Depot is.
Actually, we definitely can, because there's a whole, like, I think maybe only associates have access to it, so maybe. I don't know. But
we won't give out the specific location.
A website in Home Depot's like system where like you can go for resources and answers to questions if you're like stumped on something at work. But there's actually like a thread or page on there that's all about celebrities at Home Depot. So I feel like if they have that, then it's
that's true. So Pat works for Home Depot, and he works at a specific store in Nashville, and it just so happens to be the store that all of these country singers and celebrities go to. And I would not have believed it had I not seen it until one day Pat texted me a picture of him and Jake Owen, because Jake Owen just happened to come into Home Depot because country singers buy their own home, home repair goods stuff. What?
Gotta have siding somehow.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things like everybody needs stuff for the house occasionally.
And so for a long time, it was like an ongoing thing where it'd be like, all right, like who's Pat gonna text me a picture of today that he met while he was at work? Like, it's been Jake Owen. He's seen Ronnie Dunn. You weren't there for this one, but you said that your coworkers told you about Steven Tyler from Aerosmith.
Yeah,
he parked his.
That's the only time I've been mad. That was the only time I've been mad about missing one.
I guess he parked his vintage white Rolls Royce outside, came in with his like fur coat or something, and was like taking pictures with people.
Yeah, not a big deal or anything.
How freaking like insane is that? Like, oh my god, being freaking Home Depot and see Steven Tyler. What's up?
I also miss Chris Stapleton.
Oh man,
he came in, I don't know if it was like 2 summers ago or something, buying some cactus. But they kind of, everyone that I talked to said that they got the vibe he didn't want to take pictures or anything because he was kind of like, he had that I don't want to be recognized kind of like thing going on.
That's
like,
disappointing.
Like one of the, like they didn't say he came off as like rude or anything, just like, oh God, please don't ask to take a picture because I'm in gym shorts right now. And they think it was more one of those, like, I'm not prepared to take a picture on social media, so please don't ask me because I don't want to say no.
But so for the most part, the country singers that come in there are all usually pretty good about taking pictures with you guys?
Yeah, dude, they're super nice. Years ago, or maybe not years ago, but like a year or two before I got there, apparently Tim McGraw came into the store at some point and like was super nice to everybody. And they like, because people are even like, I feel so bad, that guy probably came in here for one thing and he was spending an hour at the store because everyone lined up to take pictures with him. And
that's incredible.
he like in a rush apparently. So but yeah, I've seen like Jake Owen obviously regularly. Not so much now because he's a little busy. But he was in just about a month or two ago. Which is kind of weird because he comes in so often. He's like a regular customer. And so like it got to the point because I bugged him like every time he came in because I was new to Nashville and like it was just mind blowing that he's in there. I'm like, it's Jake Owen. I know I met him, but I want to meet him again. Like,
yeah.
So I say hi to him or be like, you need help finding something, and usually he does, which is weird. But yeah, and he's usually buying like just random things, like so. But yeah, now it's at the point where like there's been times where like someone just taps me on the shoulder and like I turn around, Jake Owen just like, hey, how's it going, Pat? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how do you even know my name at this point? But he knows a lot.
I'm assuming you wear a name tag, right?
He's just really polite and just really cool. But yeah, we've seen Pam Tillis. One of the ones I'm mad about that I was there for was I was coming back from lunch and I walked through the door and walked right past Sheryl Crow.
Oh my God.
And got to the break room to clock in and people were like, they're like, you see the picture I just got with Sheryl Crow? I'm like, you're serious right now? That was Sheryl Crow? Because like I was like, it looks like her, but like she looks like anybody. Like I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
So I was pretty mad about that. But yeah, Pam Tillis, which is funny because one of the guys that works for me now, he's a big Pam Tillis fan, and I had no idea. So she asked me, she was looking for water or something, and I was like, why does she look so familiar to me? Like I feel like I know her. And one of the coworkers is like, that's Pam Tillis. I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. And so I was like, well, that's cool. You know, I'm not going to bother her. And then later we were talking about it, and one of the coworkers is like, I love Pam Tillis. Why did no one come get me? I'm like, you like Pam Tillis? Like, I didn't even know he would know who he is. But yeah, Jody Messina, we've seen. I mean, there's a lot of people that I guess just everybody needs something for their house eventually. So...
It's just like, and it's great because it's just another example of like country stars, like they're just like us, you know?
Yeah, they're really down to earth. Like there's a close by store where I guess Jason Aldean shops at somewhat regularly. And people are like, he's just kind of a regular guy. Again, not one that is like super wanting to have pictures taken, but not like rude about it either. So
yeah. And then, so which artists would you say you've gotten to meet in Nashville? Who's been like super nice and who's been kind of a bit of a jerk?
So my favorites, Jake Owen, obviously, like, which I think he made Bobby Bones' list of nice people or something. Like, at one point, he had like that list going of like nicest people in Nashville, and Jake Owen really. It's not so much he's nice; he's just like a regular person. Like you don't feel like he should be famous at all. Like he's just like another guy.
Yeah.
So he's really cool. And another one that we really liked from day one, actually, from when we visited for a weekend just to check it out, is Laurie White, which she passed away about a year ago, I think now. But she was always she's my mom's favorite artist, her and Martina McBride. And so when we were visiting that weekend and she was playing at the Bluebird, and we're like, yeah, let's go. Like, that's crazy that my mom's like favorite artist is going to be there. And then when
That's cool.
we got there and realized the atmosphere and everything, we're like, I think we can like meet the artist after the show. Like, it's one of those places, I think. So we got to talk to her and we were telling her we're thinking about moving here. And she just started like telling us all about all the different places and was like, well, you should move to this neighborhood because it's pretty cheap. And like, I know people over here and there's a great farmer's market and you should come back and let me know if you move here because I'll show you about these places. And like, just super nice and really welcoming. And then Kelly Pickler is another one that we've met several times. It's like super nice. Those are the three that stand out to me the most as far as like super nice people that we've met. There's been a few that were not so great. If you're a fan of the Bobby Bones show, you probably won't be too surprised. Casey Musgraves is on the not so nice list.
Okay.
We ran into her at a bar. It was a benefit show for a songwriter that was like well established by a bunch of people, like respected by everybody. And I guess he had cancer. They were like raising money for him. And at the time I had a coworker who is in a band and kind of has connections and knew about this show that was going to happen. And I think I'd seen it on social media, like, hey, you can pay what you can at the door. All proceeds go to help this guy. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's some good names on there, but like, do we really want to show up to this thing? And how much do we pay if we go? Like, I don't know. And then my coworker was saying how Casey Musgraves was a secret guest of this show that she had asked to not be announced on the lineup, but she was going to be there to support it.
Okay.
And it was right when she was getting really big, and I was a huge fan when she first started because I really liked Merry Go Round and just thought she was different and really liked her. And so we go there and we went to the bar to get some more drinks because we got there super early because this is probably my most embarrassing moment as living in Nashville because at the time we were brand new to Nashville and we didn't know how things are if you're a local. So like we were like the tourists amongst a bunch of industry people. So I feel like we may have been the only fans in that crowd. So it was really embarrassing looking back on it. But yeah, we went to go we got there super early, so we get right up in the front. And like, I don't even know if we were supposed to sit there because we were like right up against like all of these music execs. And I think we weren't supposed to sit there, but we did.
I mean, unless they tell, like, unless there's like a reserved sign or something, that technically it's a free for all.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And looking back on it, though, I'm like, we were the only non-music industry people in that room, I think. And so maybe it was just spoken that, like, everyone was on that level and it didn't matter. And then we just came in as fans and took those seats. Because it was in the same room that Hunter Hayes did that show. It was, like, in a small little room at the top of, like, a new bar. And so we went to go get drinks at some point. And we were standing there and waiting to get drinks, and I think just looking around, and I'm like, I think Casey Musgraves is in front of us in line. And then because she asked my coworker who knows things to tour with them as their opening act, I see all these pictures and know all this stuff about her that her boyfriend at the time was standing next to her, and I recognized him as well. So the two of them, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely them. So I was like, you should ask her like for a picture when she's done ordering a drink. So we did. And she looked totally like caught off guard, like, who are these people? And so she was like, I'm actually in a really big hurry, so I gotta get backstage, but I'll come back after the show and we'll take a picture. Like, yeah, cool, okay. And she never did. She actually never came out for the show. She either left or just didn't come out from backstage. I don't know what happened. So that was kind of weird. So I don't know if we ruined it for everybody and she just left. Like, I don't know what happened.
No, I mean, and Bobby Bones has said this on his show before, that like there's a rule when it comes to celebrities, if you see them in public, like as long as they're not eating or with their family, then like, you know, like with their kids or whatever, then technically you can ask them for a picture or an autograph, and they shouldn't be a jerk about it.
You would think. And she wasn't like, I even texted my friend after that because I'm like, so this is what just happened. What are the odds she's actually going to hold her end of it? And he was like, no, she's really good with her fans. She'll be there. And she definitely didn't. So we left. But yeah, it was weird because like that was the same night where we met Daryl Worley.
And he's really cool. We met him at CMA Fest
Jen
when
Treat.
I was there.
Yeah, Daryl Worley was a really cool guy. Again, another embarrassing moment from that night. Like I kind of stalked him out so that when he came out into the crowd to either go to the bathroom or get a drink or whatever, I like jumped out of the seat and went and got him. And he was talking to a buddy, I guess. So I kind of stood there like next to them for a minute, waiting for them to be done. And then he finally came over. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Because like, he knew I was waiting, I guess. So, but I had had quite a few drinks too. So,
oh no.
Yeah, it wasn't a good time to just engage because I didn't think it was going to be one of those like start a conversation deals. I thought he was just going to be like, let's take the picture and I got to go. And he actually wanted to talk. And
That's
so
awesome,
I started rambling about who knows what, but like he was really cool. Like he just sat there and talked to me. So I kind of wish I knew what we talked about a little bit more. But yeah, he's really.
Hello? Uh-oh.
I was like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude." So it was just all in all an embarrassing night for me. I just feel
everyone has those moments though.
When they didn't expect it.
Yeah. So who else that you've gotten to meet in Nashville, artist wise, has been more, I mean, I don't want to like dwell on like who's been a jerk and who's not, but like, I mean, who's just been some of the more or who did you think might be a jerk but was actually really surprisingly nice?
Oh, trying to think if I ever thought who, because the weird thing with country artists, you really don't expect any of them to be jerks. They all really kind of seem genuine. It's just the format, I guess. I don't know. I do know, other than Casey Musgraves, I think I remember there being 3 people that we kind of have decided like were not very cool. Like when we met them, Chase Rice was one of them.
Really?
Yeah, he was. And again, it may have just been an off thing. It was a CMA Fest thing, and he didn't say a single word to us. It was just like, "Hey, if you get in line, you might get in time to meet Chase Rice." It was at that fanfare thing where you had to win a drawing, but if you didn't, you could get in the hopeful line and possibly get in. So we did. And we got in, but he literally, like, he had the pose just there, solid. So, like, he was just standing there with his arm kind of out to put it around your, like, shoulder, and it didn't move between people. Like, he just held his arm out there, and you just kind of stood in front of it.
Oh.
He didn't say hi to us. Like, he didn't say anything. He just kept the smile, looked straight at the camera dude, and, like, that was it. And, like, there was no interaction. Like, we were like, "Hey, how's it going?" He just smiled, didn't say nothing, took a picture, walked away. So it was a little disappointing for that one.
Yeah.
But then there's really, trying to think who else because there was a third one, and I can't remember who it was that we were like, "Oh, that wasn't such a great interaction." But trying to think if there's anyone where we met them, and well, I guess Steven Tyler. Not that I thought he'd be a jerk, but I thought he'd be one of those take the picture, let's go on to the next. And he was actually super down to earth, like wanted to know about our background, like where we're from, he actually, because he thought we were like really young or something, wanted to know how we were like Aerosmith fans still. He was like, "How did you guys even like become Aerosmith fans? I've been around so long." And like, he was really nice. And that was really surprising. I remember being the most shocked by that one.
That's definitely, he's somebody who I would really want to meet, is Steven Tyler.
He's very genuine. Like, that was what was surprising. Like, there were so many people and photographers and everything around that meet and greet that we didn't feel like there was anyone else in that little booth when we were there. And it was really weird. Because when we walked away, you were just like, holy crap, there's like 300 people standing right here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of shocking.
So tell us a little bit more about the insider scoop from your friends who work in the industry in Nashville.
About what moving to Nashville?
The insider scoop from your friends who work in the industry in Nashville.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that I've worked with or work with now. It's kind of like a carousel of people because they all have to have jobs. Like, it's not like everyone's rich off music. So yeah, so you get little tidbits from here and there. Like I said, like I worked with for a while this guy that was like 19 or 20. He's probably like 23 now. And his band was opening up for Casey Musgraves for like 2 straight years. And then, but they never wanted to be a country band. They always wanted to kind of be like their own thing. And so they kind of at one point made a decision to branch off and went their separate way with management and everything. And it's just really weird to see like some of the things that happen. So, like you'll hear about an artist like when you or me hear about like Maren Morris or Kelsey Ballerini. It's interesting to find out that like their journey is gone for like 7 years before we ever hear their name.
Right.
And so it was something I never thought about. It was just like, oh, like where do these people come from? They just must have been discovered and tomorrow they're a big star. And they say that like the average around here, like they say it's like you have to live in Nashville 7 years and grind it out before you're gonna possibly make it somewhere. And so that's kind of what this guy always told me. It's like, we're not 7 years in yet, so we don't really expect to make it. But his the two leaders of his band, John and Jacob, who are like his best friends from growing up in Alabama, and they're cousins, I believe. They wrote "Done" for the band Perry.
Okay.
And so that was their claim to fame, that their uncle is the Bob behind Major Bob Records. And so he signed them as publishing deals to, give them a songwriting deal in Nashville so they could move to town and try to pursue their band thing. And they ended up writing this song called "Done" that was recorded by the band Perry. So that was always their big thing. And I don't know if they still do, because now they've changed their name and everything. And I don't think they're allowed to use it because they changed labels. But they used to always play that at their shows. But they're a good band. It's just not country. It's not pop. It's kind of just like in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah.
And like I have another friend who like does like Christian music, fills in for like different bands and whatnot. I got another guy who works with me right now who's a Texan, and goes back to Texas all the time on weekends to do his music there. He's more of like a kind of folk song kind of guy. Again, he's really good. Like, it's like you listen to some of these people and you're like, I don't understand how these people don't make it. And it's just shocking because it's like me or you would be like, yeah, this person's really good. Like, I could sit in a bar or a cafe or something and listen to this person sing and play, but no one apparently wants to pay them to do it. So
Right.
It's really interesting because, like, living in Chicago, at least for me, that's where I live. I mean, probably living anywhere outside Nashville, you think that it's not that you think it's easy, but it's like, oh, like I'm a pretty good writer. I could probably write a song and I could probably make it. And then you get here and the person on the street corner like has a million times more talent than you do, and they're homeless. Like, so it's really, it kind of puts things into perspective, like how hard some of these people have to work to get there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's people who go years being in Nashville before they even get like a publishing deal. And then from there, it's, even more, a few more years before they get, if they even get a record deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like somebody like Ryan Hurd, who has been fortunate enough to have a few number one singles, writing for people like Chris. I think he wrote for Chris Young and Blake Shelton, Dirk Bentley. But I mean, even he had to struggle for quite a bit before he got his publishing deal.
Yeah, I mean, Reinhardt's another one that, like, you think should have no problem going somewhere. It's just surprising, like, and we've had friends, like, that have played at our wedding and stuff that have, Nashville recording artists and stuff. And to hear them talk about, like, just the money that goes behind it, like, it's not so much just your talent, which the sad thing is you have to have money to get in front of these people. You can't just, like, get in front of Scott Borchetta, like me or you. Like,
Right.
you have to have a manager, and then that manager, depending on essentially how much you're paying your manager, is going to determine what kind of exposure they can get you. Because if you're not paying your manager a lot, not that you're underpaying them, it's just that's the best manager you can afford, because he hasn't established himself. And so he doesn't have the connections to get you to the right people. So the more money you have, the better connected manager you can hire who's going to get you there. But if they don't believe in you, they're still not going to push you. They're going to go push their other clients. And so it's a very strange thing to think that it's not just this talent-based industry. It's really more about the money.
And who you know.
And who you know. Like, even I'm sure that's how it works with Bobby Bones. Like, I don't think, as much as he would love to put people on the radio, he probably doesn't have 100% control over that. It's not like you could tweet him a video of your friend who's insanely talented and they're going to put him on the radio the next day.
Although, some of the shows that I've listened to him of his, it seems like that's how it ended up. Like, somebody, who was it? I can't think of the guy's name. He had no, not Adam Hambrick. It was I can't think of the guy's name, but this was like last year, I think, or the year before. He sent his song to one of the two Morgans, like it was, and they ended up playing it for, like, he emailed it to him. One of the two Morgans, they played it for Bobby. He played it on the air next day. Like, the guy's song is like shooting to number one on iTunes. So then, when the guy, his album was one of the best albums that year when it came out. I remember, like, well, for me it was, I can't think of the guy's name. It's going to drive me nuts. But, so sometimes that happens like that. Like, there's guys where he's just happened to find on YouTube or Twitter because somebody posted, or the person sent it to somebody on Bobby's team, and then he plays it on his radio show. Next thing you know, like, the artist is coming in to play in studio. So sometimes it happens that way. I don't know if those things are planned, and it just comes off as spontaneous, or...
That's what I'd be curious to know, because that's kind of how I feel living in Nashville and hearing all these other stories, like, of friends and stuff. Is like it is aired as being chance opportunity, but, like,
right.
They're always like, oh yeah, behind the scenes something happened where that was. And if you think about it, for Bobby Bones, a guy like him, he probably does really get solicited a lot, like 1,000 times a day.
For sure.
So he really can't even look at the good ones, even if he wanted to, because he's getting so many of them by volume, that there probably had to be something to it where a manager or a well-connected agent or something knew Morgan or someone on the show and was like, look, I'm not a nobody. I'm a respected manager. You need to listen to this artist. And then that's what happened. That's more likely what I think probably happened. But again, it could honestly have been just they heard it and wanted to have them on the show. I'm not saying it can't happen. It just seems like it doesn't really happen that way.
Right. And I know he has said before that there have been people who try to give him, like, CDs to listen to. And he's always like, dude, he's like, I don't even have something to play this on. Because everything's so digital now. So I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, which actually, I don't even know anything about her story, but actually, as far as like new artists or songs I've been listening to, is kind of funny. Because I was thinking later as you were doing your news that the Tanil Towns, I think that's her name. Her song, like I really like that song. Someone's Daughter, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a big fan of that song. Partially, it's kind of weird because I pass a girl on the corner of the stoplight when I leave work every day. And so it's kind of ironic. Like, you're like, it's kind of weird because now that's how I relate to that person. And then the Kelsey Ballerini song I really like right now.
Which one?
Miss Me, I think it's called.
Oh, Miss Me More?
Yeah, that one.
I'm really surprised you like that, because that one's, of all the songs on that album, Miss Me More is the least country in the traditional sense. I mean, I love it. I love that whole album, but I'm really surprised that you liked it.
Yeah, I'm surprised too, because not that I want a bunch of hate mail for this, but I'm kind of over the women's movement thing going on. Like, not that I don't think they should get more attention. Like, I'm all behind that. I think they need to be on the radio more.
Yeah.
It seemed like what that did was it sparked every major artist to write a song or cut a song about it, and they were all the same. And so, like, you had everyone try to have a single out about the whole girl movement thing, and it started to get overplayed. And I was like, I'd like to see something more original from people, which I think Kelsey Ballerini did. She took it a different way. Like Maren Morris, I love Maren Morris, but that song, I just don't like it.
Girl?
Yeah, I was like, really? She's late to the game. Everyone else has done this song already, and she's just trying to put it out there now, and it's going to go number one because of Maren Morris and it's the girl movement.
But see, that's interesting that you say that, because the song's not going number one. I mean, the album,
yeah, I know,
the album is doing great on the charts, but the song itself, as far as radio play goes, it's not getting the airplay that it should, to be honest with you. I think it's a great song. I don't think that she was aiming I don't think she was aiming to send a message. I think she was just right, because if you listen to the interviews that she's done about that song, she said that she wrote that, it was kind of like, it started out as one thing, and then it turned into, she was basically like looking in the mirror, and she was just essentially writing it to herself, like trying to tell herself, because of a lot of the stuff that was going on at the time. Like, she had all these feelings like she wasn't good enough, and just, people criticizing like the direction and stuff like that for her music and everything. And she starts to write this song, and she's writing it to women in general, but then it turned out she's writing it like to herself, because she's telling herself that, like, hey, you don't have to feel this way, like, it's okay, like, there's room for everyone at the table.
Yeah, which, like I said, like, all of the songs independently are good songs. It just seemed like everyone started releasing a song around the same time about it, and it started to be like every time a female artist has a new song, you're expecting it to be about that now, because it's like, because Carrie Underwood did the Cry Pretty, and there were some before that. Even guy artists were doing songs about it, which I actually liked, like Keith Urban's version. And I think Maren Morris's "If You Take It By Itself" is actually a good song, but it was like all these songs all at once coming out. It was like, and they can't play every female if all the songs are going to be like that. So they need something different too. But yeah, I guess the Kelsey Ballerini one, to me, like, she went a different way with the same message, essentially. She kind of did it as, like, not so much like you deserve more and this and that, but like kind of wrote it from the perspective of, like, I think a lot of girls do have that experience where they change everything about them to fit the person they're with. And so it was a little different than doing it from just like the other viewpoint that like Maren Morris and Carrie Underwood did, where it's more of a building the person up kind of song. This was more of a self-aware, like, why did I ever do this to myself kind of thing. And it had that pop feel to it, which is different. And I liked that. And I think it works for her. I think she's really, like, she does well with that pop sound.
Yeah.
So I'm actually like, I've actually been a big fan of her since day one. So like, it's kind of cool to see if she could be the next Taylor Swift. Who knows? Because that seems to be kind of who she's shadowing with her career.
Yeah, I definitely think Kelsey has the potential to be like the next Taylor Swift. I just think that radio needs to get behind her a little bit more.
Which they do play her a lot. Like, I feel like every time I'm in the car, I hear her song.
But they're playing her older songs. They're not playing much of off the new album.
Yeah, the only one I hear is Miss Me More. That's the only one I hear off the new stuff at all. And then once in a while I'm hearing still, Peter Pan or whatever. But I've been a fan of everything she's released. So I'm just glad to hear something of hers on the radio when it comes on.
Yeah.
Because, I definitely get burnt out on the Thomas Rhett and Jason Aldean or whoever it is that week. It would be nice. Because it seems like in 90s you had a lot of mixture. Like, you did have a lot of big women in music. And it kind of, you still do now, but like, they're not on the radio. They're just big because people are listening to them, and music's gone a different way with streaming, so they don't have to play them on the radio anymore. So it's weird to have big female artists that everyone knows and likes, but they're not necessarily on the radio as much. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and I mean, we touched on this a bit last week, but like, I think it's unfair that like, just because Luke Bryan puts out a new song, whether it's good or bad, it's going to get radio play and probably go to number one, even though it might not be deserving. Just because it's Luke Bryan doesn't mean it should be a number one song. But unfortunately, it's going to get more airplay because it's Luke Bryan.
Which I think Bobby Bones went into that one week about, it had nothing to do with the female artist, but it was like two male artists or something. I think John Party may have been involved in it. Where he was saying that a song stayed at number one. It had been number one for a couple weeks, and it was number one again, even though apparently there was like this understanding that, like, I think it was the John Party song was supposed to go number one, but because this other song stayed up there, it bumped him from number one, so he's just going to be number one next week. And I was like, really? That's how that works? Like, that's so weird.
Yeah, see, I don't understand that. Like, supposed to go number one. Like, what does that mean? Like, if you go number one, you should be surprised. Like, it shouldn't be planned. It should be because it earned it, because the listeners, the fans, pushed that song because they wanted to hear it, because they kept requesting it. Like, that should be how it goes. This supposed to be stuff I don't understand.
Pure requests or whatever. And he kind of made it sound like there was like this, whatever, there must be money behind it or something, where they're like, oh yeah, this song was going to be number one, but this song just held on and we couldn't, like, it was like almost like one of those, like, he was almost saying like the fans maybe changed the way it was supposed to be, which would be nice. But then he was like, so that just means, I guess, he's going to have to wait another week or something. And then it went number one the next week instead. But instead of getting 2 weeks at the top spot, it only got one, because then right behind it came another song that they already were pushing.
Yeah.
So it was really weird. Like, I didn't really understand that. And I haven't heard anyone, like, I don't know anyone that big that's been in that situation that could maybe, like, explain that more about how that works. All the people I know, like, have never even been on the radio.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about that. I think a lot of it has to do with money and, the artists who have the bigger labels behind them, the labels that have the more money, they're the ones pushing the DJs and the, program directors to play these songs. So obviously you're going to hear more of the Thomas Rhetts and the Dirk Bentleys and the Luke Bryans and the Jason Aldeans, because they have the manpower behind them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, and that's kind of like what the girl that sang at our wedding kind of said too. It's all about, like, your money. Like, are you willing to pay for that airplay and all that, which the average person can't, but people like Thomas Rhett can. And I'm sure, like, for Kelsey Ballerini to get that song on the radio, she's probably forking over a lot of money, or her team is, or whatever, just to keep her relevant, even though she should be relevant either way.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you how far how far we've come in the industry, that it's no longer about who has the better song, it's just who's got the bigger label with more money.
Yeah, because I remember having to sit next to the radio back in the day, and like you could tell I used to have to record songs on cassette from the radio to get my music, and so like I would wait for the countdown because I roughly knew where the songs I wanted would land, and so I would know like song 16, so I got about 4 more songs before the one I want possibly is going to come on. So, but now like it's just the same songs over and over again, and then like number 30 changes out and slowly climbs. So yeah, it's weird. It would be interesting almost to see what would happen if like someone like Kelsey Ballerini just boycotted radio and said from now on I'm just going streaming. I'm not going to even play on the radio. I don't care. And see if it got other girls to do it as well. And then it got to a point where you just didn't have females on the radio by choice. Would people just stop listening to the radio and be like, yeah, forget that. I'm just going to go stream music because that's what I can do now. It'd be interesting to see if that would work.
Yeah, it would be interesting, but I don't know if it would work or not, because I mean, already, like when we talked about this a little bit last week, where the casual listener is the one who's unfortunately like dictating what's played on the radio, because the radio stations have to make money, as we learned from Matt. And so a lot of the casual listeners are, I mean, we'll be honest, like a lot of them are female. And so who do they want to hear? Who do they want to see in concert? You know, they want to see the Jason Aldean, the Luke Bryans, the Dierks Bentleys, the guys who, let's be honest, are not bad to look at. For whatever, and I don't agree with it, but I wish more females would give more female listeners would give more female artists a chance, because they deserve to be played on the radio. But I mean, unfortunately, it's just people seem to think that that the artists that make it higher up on the charts are, should be the ones that the listeners want to see more of.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird dilemma. That's why I mean, it would definitely take Kelsey Ballerini and whatever other bigger names in music, I guess Maren Morris, to do it, because without them, no one's gonna care.
This is true.
But it would be interesting if they got like all the top artists like Carrie Underwood and them to all go in together and say, we're just pulling from radio altogether. We're just streaming. What impact that would have, I'm not sure what it would do, but it would be interesting. Because at some point, like if it worked, you would just lose quality artists on radio, and so radio would have no choice, and the casual listener would have no choice but to just want the mediocre artist or whatever in their top slots. So would it just phase it out altogether, or would they just continue to just grind it out with the second level artists? I don't know. Which could also possibly even benefit that then, because then maybe some of these artists that don't get on the radio are now on the radio because all the other people pulled out. So it would be interesting to see what would happen.
That would be interesting. I think that would be an experiment. I think that's an experiment worth trying for these radio programmers and music directors and the artists, obviously. But I don't know. I can't say.
Chase Rice is out. Jesse Rice is in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be interesting. Do you take out all of your major artists from the regular rotation and put in a unknown or up and coming unsigned artist, and see how that goes for a day? See what your listeners, what kind of feedback they have. Is it going to hurt a radio station's ratings, or is it going to bring more people to your station? Is it going to bring more? Is it going to, give more streams and downloads to these artists who need it?
Yeah, I think initially you'd see a dip in ratings because, like you said, the casual listener doesn't want to hear them. So they're going to be like, oh, what's this? I don't want to listen to this, and turn it off. But then when word of mouth got around to other listeners or music fans that this was happening, you'd get all those people tuning in just during that time. And so you'd start to see a shift where, like, oh, there's other people that haven't been listening. All of a sudden, now they're listening to that. So it would probably take some time, but I think it could work. I don't know.
Yeah, radio's a tough one, as we learned last week when Matt was giving us his insider information. It's all about the business side of it, and radio stations have to make money, and unfortunately, that means pushing the artists who have the money behind them.
Yeah, because I really liked Bobby Bones had the '90s country thing like once a week going.
Yeah, that was really cool
April.
for the month of April.
But I think it was just a month thing. Like, I don't think he's going to keep doing it.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was really surprised to see that. I wish it was something that he would continue to do.
Yeah, at least
because
because
he has a
run out eventually, or people wouldn't. You can't get everyone to do so. But once a month you could pull off. That's 12 artists a year. That's not bad.
I mean, he's got the younger audience, and I think the younger audience needs to hear the 90s country artists just so they can understand, country's roots. Because, again, a lot of the casual listeners they're not doing their homework. They're just showing up to a show and, they're somebody like Kane Brown covers George Strait, and these people think they're like, oh, I never heard the song before. Like, let's write this down. And it's just kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think it was the first year we were here. I remember, like, I felt like I just, like, shot back to the 90s one night. Because I went to a show that was literally in the basement of a record store. Like, I remember the ticket said, like, or the announcement said it's going to be at the basement. And I was like, oh, that's a cool name for a venue. And then you had to go pick up your ticket in person at the place, and it was a record store. And I was like, oh, so this record store is just selling the ticket. And it's like, no, actually, the show is actually in the downstairs. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So, and it was Dina Carter.
Oh, wow.
And so it literally was a room that could hold 25, 30 people, maybe.
Oh, my God.
I feel like. And so how I even got tickets, because I didn't think this was a big deal. I just casually went up there when I heard about it. Like, a couple days later went up there and was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to try to buy a ticket. And I got one, which blew my mind later, because I'm like, how did this not sell out? Like, it sold out, but how did it not sell out, like, immediately, like, in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Because it only holds, like, 30 people. So that was crazy. I just remember going to that, and, like, it's still one of my favorite shows I've ever been to, because it was like being back in the 90s. All of a sudden, like, the second she started the first note from the first song, you were like, okay, we're back. It's like straight 90s all of a sudden. You, like, totally just went back in time. She started with "How did we get here?" or "How did I get here?" And, like, right away you just remember the song and, like, the words. You're like, whoa, this is so cool. Especially because there's only like 20 people in the crowd. So, like, you're just standing like 2 feet from her while she's playing. Like, that was really cool. So it's weird to think, like, today people don't have that experience of, like, what 90s artists were like.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think more DJs, and that's the other problem, is other than Bobby Bones, you don't have that many radio DJs on these major FM country stations who know their history of the genre. A perfect example is, this. I'm not going to name names because I think that's probably just a little unfair, but there's a couple morning show hosts on one of the stations here in Chicago that were given the boot, and I mean they.
I was just gonna say, do they still work in Chicago?
They came from a pop station. They came to country, and initially I think it was meant to, shake things up a little bit at the station and bring in the younger audience, which they did. But I don't think that they fully understood where country is rooted, what country is rooted in, and I think it showed, and it obviously that eventually is reflected in your ratings, which is what happened here. So I think there needs to be more radio DJs who, like some of the oldies radio DJs who they knew their history of music. They were able to give you, little fun tidbits of information, and not just stuff that you can pick up by following somebody on social media. Like that's not the stuff I'm talking about.
Oh, so while you're on that topic, like with the oldie stations DJs that like knew their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So cool story. I don't even know who this guy was anymore because like at the time, like I just kind of like in one ear out the other. We were at work and this guy just starts a conversation with us, and apparently he was the DJ of an oldie station in Nashville for years, and so he was like really cool to talk to, and so I think it's Three Dog Night.
Okay.
Do you know that song "Blinded by the Light"?
Yeah.
So if you can like sing it in your head or whatever, do you know the words to that chorus, like blinded by the light and then the next line?
I don't remember the next line. It's been a while since I've heard the song, but I know obviously Blinded by the Light.
Yeah, so everyone knows it, and it's one of those. He's like, you know that song, right? So what's the chord? And we start singing it, and he's like, that's what I was looking for. No one knows the actual words to that song. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, what does that mean? And we were thinking, because I think someone said, I don't even know what we said now because it seems so wrong anymore now. Like, but we said something like rolled up like a douche or something.
What?
Like blinded by the light, rolled up like a douche in the middle of the night or something like that. I can't remember what it is. And he's like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, I don't really know. It never made sense to me. It just, I like the song. I don't know. And so he said the words were revved up like a deuce. Another roller in the night or something. And I was like, revved up like a deuce. And I was like, I guess I wouldn't think that because I don't even know what that means.
It's a 1932 Ford.
Just like slang at the time meant for like a muscle car.
Okay.
And so that's what he was talking, like blinded by, I guess, the headlights, revved up like a V8 and like a deuce, which I don't know. Deuce must have some, I think it has something to do with like the engine of the car. But I was like, that makes total sense. And it's because like this guy like knew everything about that genre of music. Like he knew the ins and outs of like every lyric, every song, like, and so like it was so cool to like talk to this guy that like had all this history. Like you were saying, like they bring in these people nowadays that don't know anything.
Right.
And they can't expand the genre because they can't expand the format because they don't even know enough about it themselves to do that. So it's kind of getting away from that, where you had these longtime DJs that knew everybody, and like I guess kind of like the Almost Famous thing, where like he just knew everyone on the radio.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about that aspect of it. It's crazy. Like I'll never understand how people can just be casual music fans. I have this like debate with people that I like, coworkers and stuff. Like it's just always interesting. Like some people just don't dig into the music, and I don't know. I could never be one of those people.
Yeah, I've always just liked music. Like you just gotta listen to a bunch of it and all of it, which I used to be more into like new artists and finding new artists than I am now, because I just don't seek it out as much as I did, like with not as much downtime anymore. But I used to be like, I'd just go on iTunes and browse, or go on like whatever and browse like artists that it recommended or that I've never heard of and think I might like.
So moving back towards Nashville in general, and the conversation, tell us about when the best time for people to come to Nashville is.
Well, I mean, if you're like a big music fan, definitely CMA Fest. That's a huge time to like even if you're not going to meet your favorite artist, like you're going to meet several artists within country music. You may or may not meet your favorite, like Keith Urban. It could happen. It's less likely the bigger the artist, but that's what's great about it is they give you that opportunity. They all have fan club parties. They all do shows where you're going to have the chance. You just might not be one of the people that actually meet them, but someone's going to meet them. But yeah, I mean, it's a week. Like you said, it's a weekend, but officially, but like it really goes for like 7 or 8 days. Actually, I think Rodney Atkins kind of officially kicks it off because I think on that Monday he does a free show every year downtown with like a couple other people, and they raise money for I think Second Harvest or something.
Right.
So I've never been to that one either because it's always like on a Monday when I'm working. But I've always done the weekend thing. But they do other other festivals too. Like there's like if you're into bluegrass, there's like a huge bluegrass Americana festival. I don't remember what part of the year. I want to say it's like fall that it happens. And like all the bluegrass people are down here, all that. But because I don't really know why you would come to Nashville if you were like not into music. Because otherwise you'd want to come like I guess in the winter or something to avoid all of it. But I don't know why you would come to Nashville if you're trying to avoid music. So
right.
But what's cool is like no matter when you come, there's gonna be something cool that you could probably catch. Like the Bluebird Cafe is like one of those places that like you don't even have to know any of the artists on the list, but it's going to be really cool when you leave. We've typically always gone when there's at least one artist on there that we know of or want to see. And it's always in the round, like you were talking about earlier, where it's like 4 artists that take turns singing their songs acoustically and kind of giving you background on it in between. And it's always super talented people that you may or may not hear about later down the road. Obviously, Garth Brooks played there, and Taylor Swift before they got big. So, and it's another one of those like where it only holds like 75 people, and the artists mingle with the crowd after the show, and it's just really cool. I got to meet Michelle Branch that way. So really anytime you come, like you mentioned in the opening, where it's just the number one destination for bachelorette parties, because it doesn't really matter what weekend you come, you're going to see like a cool show. Or if you want to, you're going to see a cool show. There's a place called the Listening Room that's like a brunch place downtown area that does the same thing. They have like women on a stage that take turns singing their songs, and you have brunch, listen to their music, and get to do that whole thing. Same thing. Actually, I think that was one of the writers' rounds you went to during CMA Fest at the Tampa with Kaylee Shore and
the Song Suffragettes.
Yeah, so they do a weekly. I think every week they do a show at the Listening Room.
Yep, every Monday, and they always sell out.
Yeah, because I mean it's just really good, and like I said, the average casual music listener is not going to know who they are at all, but they'll probably be fans of them when they leave. So it's just really cool.
Yeah,
but yeah,
for sure.
Hands down, CMA Fest is like the time you should come. Unless you don't like country music, then it's probably not a good idea. But yeah, that's probably by far the biggest time to come.
And then outside of CMA Fest, for anybody who's not like super into like that kind of crowd, when would be another good time?
Probably, like I said, the bluegrass thing. And they have other things throughout the year. They'll do like a hip hop thing. Like, there's the Pilgrimage Festival, which had Elton John play, I believe. No, Bonnaroo. Bonnaroo was the other one. And that Elton John has played at. Everybody. I think Paramore's played there. So Bonnaroo's another one, and I think that happens right around the same time as CMA Fest. I think it's within a week or two.
Yeah, I want to say in 2017 when we went for CMA Fest, I think people were going that same time for Bonnaroo Fest. I think that was one year where it happened to be the same weekend.
Yeah, so I think it's always within like a week or two of each other, and it's about probably like 45 minutes to an hour south of Nashville. Like, it's not far. I've never been to it, but yeah, it's supposedly a really cool festival as well. I've wanted to go to it a couple times because I know Grace Potter's played there, Paramore, obviously. So there's been bands that are not country that's a good way to go see them play and see a couple of the bands you like all at once. They just don't have the fanfare around it like CMA Fest does, but you probably still meet them if you went down there. Like, there's probably, like, if you were an insider and knew how to do it, you could probably figure it out.
So I think we pretty much covered everything about living in Nashville and just the highlights that people, I mean, you know, why people flock there now as it is, but I mean, like, living there really gives you like a whole different idea about it. Like, you really get to see the ins and outs of living in Music City and the benefits.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting town. The more you're into music, I think the more you would get out of it, even like just the little things about it, the quirks and how it works. Like, for instance, doing a podcast and writing for a magazine and stuff, like, I think you would see a lot more than I see even being down here. You'd probably learn like 10 times more than I do, just because that's kind of the field you're in. So it's definitely where you want to be if you're in music at all. But at the same time, if you're an artist, it's hard to make it in Nashville as well because of how many people. But if you're just a fan of music and wanting to be a journalist or a blogger or whatever, this is really like, I don't know if there's another town that's better for music to be in where it's so accessible to you all the time. Like you were saying with the pop-up shows, like, you just jump out the door and go, and you never know. Like, you get an interview or just meet your favorite artist. Like, you never know. It happens on a night-to-night basis down here where you don't get that other places.
Yeah, I definitely haven't seen it anywhere else, that's for sure. So, I mean, for that reason alone, you know, Nashville's always going to be someplace that it's just, if I could move anywhere, it would definitely be Nashville.
Which is interesting. I have noticed, like, just as a fan of artists, that several of the artists I like have mentioned in interviews that they really like to play in Chicago. So that's also interesting to me. Because at the same time, Nashville is usually at the bottom of their list for wanting to play, just because it's full of industry people. So they're not playing for fans; they're playing for reputation. They're being judged by industry people when they come here instead of just playing for the fans. Which I get that totally, but it was surprising that, and kind of cool that I'm from Chicago, and a lot of them say they really like the crowd in Chicago. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And that's an interesting perspective, too, because, like, you know, we obviously look at it as, oh, you know, it's great. It would be great to live in Nashville and see these artists play, you know, these hole-in-the-wall kind of places. But meanwhile, the artists are thinking, I can't wait to get to a different city and play for the fans and not, like, the executives. So that I hadn't thought about that before. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's until you get down here and you're like, I think it was because I asked one of my friends that was in the band, I'm like, why do they not come to Nashville? Why do I always have to? I moved to Nashville to be by music, and I always have to travel to go see people now. And except for these pop-up shows. But I'm like, the tours go to Atlanta, or they go to Memphis, or they go to St. Louis. And he's like, yeah, really, as an artist, you only want to come to Nashville like every other year or so because you're not going to sell tickets. It's all comps, like, oh, here, my label's giving out these tickets because we want you at the show and this and that. You don't actually sell tickets to fans. So, Yeah, it's weird because I think Jay Owen actually did like a thing in Chicago with Joe's Bar like a couple years ago. I thought he did like an unannounced kind of like
Yeah,
pop up show at
so
Joe's
I
Bar or
think it was
something.
a like through a Bub City, which is owned. It's owned by the same sorry, I can't talk. The owner of Bub City also owns Joe's on Weed Street and Joe's Live.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's probably what it was then because he's one of the ones that has said he likes the Chicago crowd, and so when he did that,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool that he would do something like that.
Yeah, it's not often that you get those surprise shows here in Chicago, but every once in a while they come through, and it's always pretty great for us because it feels like we get a little piece of that Nashville.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, well, that's gonna be really cool because like here, like he's done things where like he'll be like, hey, I'm hungry, like let's meet at Waffle House in 30 minutes, and he's buying waffles for like 300 people all of a sudden. So it's kind of weird. But then to see him do it in other cities is really cool because it's like, I guess they get it that it's, you know, their fans are not in Nashville, they're in these other cities. And so it's cool to see him do that.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like we really covered like a lot. I hope we gave people a nice little inside what living in Music City looks like kind of view. So it gives them a little bit different perspective than just the business side, but also
Yeah.
what it's like being in the heart of the city.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they at least kind of learn something about Nashville or the music industry in general that they maybe know.
And I'm sure this will just make people want to flock to Nashville even more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like they're coming in record numbers, so it's crazy how many people are here like on the weekends.
So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the show on that note then. And next week we'll have more new music for you guys, and hopefully before next week we'll also have a couple interviews. So that will be fun to announce. So stay tuned to our social media pages for that. And thanks, Pat, for coming on and giving us a look at, like I said, what living in Nashville looks like.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me on my first podcast.
Of course. And so stay tuned. You can follow along with Striking a Chord on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and subscribe, rate, and review us. Leave some comments, feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Striking a Chord official at gmail.com for any questions, comments, or hate mail, I guess. And yeah, until next week, happy listening.